Hello, I'm back again for another display of esoteric video gaming knowledge. So, I've been speedrunning Silent Hill games for a very long time now, about a decade and a half, which is actually very embarrassing to contemplate. But if you play a video game for that long, you discover all kinds of weird crap about it. And at some point I thought, instead of completing them as fast as possible, what if I screw it up as fast as possible? And so that is the challenge I set for myself. How fast can you crash or softlock every single Silent Hill game? So let me define the rules. A crash is pretty straightforward. If the game completely locks up in some way such that my only option is to either quit the game entirely or reset the console, that's a crash. While a softlock is a state that you put the game in where you can continue to play, the buttons will still work, but it is impossible to complete or to make forward progress. If I manage to put the game into a state where the only solution is to load a save or quit to the menu, that is a softlock. I have to achieve a crash or a softlock via in-game actions. I can't, hit the PS2 with a baseball bat while the game is running and go, I crashed it, that's cheating, that doesn't count. But I am allowed to use any mode of play to achieve my goal. New game plus, but I do have to actually start from a new game. I can't, load a pre-made save.
I approached it with vaguely the same logic that I approach speedrunning. Also, I did every game in this video on some manner of real hardware. Emulators were not used unless specifically noted, because emulators don't often replicate crash behavior precisely, as you will see at some point in this video. Also, this video will not be a comprehensive listing of every way you can crash or softlock a given game, just the fastest ones that I know of. And with that, let's start with our first game, Silent Hill 1. Now, Silent Hill 1 I've actually been playing a lot of recently because of a new speedrun glitch that was found that lets us skip the hospital. That glitch can lead to a crash, but it's not the target of this run. I had a pretty clear idea of what my plan was for Silent Hill 1. Like any multi-game challenge, there are some games I'm more or less familiar with, and this is one of the ones that I'm very familiar with.
So I rip through the first area and cross the bridge to the other side of Silent Hill in about 20 minutes. I have a couple of options from here, but I head into the hospital as I believe this area has the easiest method. Now, I could have just headed directly for the room that I was targeting, but I'm autopiloting the speedrun route like a dumbass, so that's a few minutes you could save. But eventually I do arrive at my goal, this room with some tentacles in it, and I start performing a particular action. Yep, it's one of these. So here's a fun fact for you. This enemy kind of respawns. You can walk up to these tentacles and attack them, and it will add the kills to your kill count. Therefore, if you're aiming for a playthrough that attains the maximum ranking at the end of the game, it is efficient to leave and re-enter this room multiple times in order to kill the tentacles over and over again. This was a great discovery for the max rank speedrun, however it came with a certain downside, which is that...
Oi! Crash! It fucking broke!
Yep, if you do it for too long, the game will crash. And in such a spectacular fashion, too. To the best of my knowledge, this works on every version of the game, every hardware platform, and even if you're playing it on an emulator or not, entering and re-entering this room dozens of times will eventually crash the game. I do not know precisely why this happens, memory leak seems pretty likely, but nevertheless that's one crash on the board in a little under 32 minutes. Not bad. So we move on to Silent Hill 2, specifically the PC version. This is important because the PC version contains the ability to use the quick save button, which I'm using almost immediately on starting the run to use a glitch called text storage.
Text storage is pretty simple. If you have a text box up, you can start pressing quick save to store the text, but still move around with text on the screen. This means cutscenes don't play, and it has a bunch of other weird impacts on the game. But the one I care about is that pretty much immediately at the start, if you approach this particular text box that tries to reroute you back onto the main path, go down the tunnel, get the plank and all that, if you hit quick save, that's it. The game is softlocked forever. This one's technically really quick, but I do a thorough examination just to make sure I am truly softlocked. The key to the apartments just fails to spawn in this state, so I couldn't go to the apartments even if I wanted to, and the cutscene with the first enemy encounter is also not active. I am also unable to interact with any doors that may be in Silent Hill. It is a true softlock. There is no way for me to progress the game from this point. It also really screws up your movement for some reason. You run very slowly everywhere, and it also has one additional effect I was not ready for. As far as I can tell, it is impossible to progress the game from this point. What the fuck is this shit? Do that again, please?
That's disgusting.
Whee! Look at him go!
Oh god! Oh god!
Why does this idle animation do that? That's so funny.
I couldn't even begin to guess why this happens. I don't know why James put his Heelys on all of a sudden. But that is a softlock for Silent Hill 2 that you can achieve in about a minute on starting the game, even though I spent 10 verifying that I was truly softlocked from every conceivable angle. So how about Silent Hill 3? Now, I start this one on New Game Plus, both because it skips the game's intro and also because it spawns the Princess Heart wand in our inventory. After playing about the first 5 minutes of the game, I repeatedly start activating the Princess Heart transformation cutscene with the wand while crossing over a loading screen in order to trigger the Princess Heart glitch. This glitch can itself crash the game if done in the wrong location, but in this area, it simply teleports us out of bounds instead, a regular part of the extra new game speedrun. However, once you're out of bounds, if you attempt to execute a quick turn, the game crashes, instantly, like hard cut to desktop. The reason for this is as funny as it is simple. If you attempt to execute a quick turn while in the void, the game attempts to find the sound effect for the surface that you're currently standing on, and because you're not standing on anything, it can't do this, and its response to this is to just immediately terminate the program. Seems like a bit of an overreaction to me, but what do I know? There's a lot of out-of-bounds goofiness that you can do in Silent Hill 3. This even works on console. So if you thought the Silent Hill 2 softlock was a bit too reliant on the PC port jank, rest assured, you can crash the console versions too. So now we go for Silent Hill 4, which is not a game I'm very familiar with. I'll be honest with you, I do not like Silent Hill 4. But that's alright, because, check this out. I've done it. Yep, we're already done. The game is softlocked. If when you first get control of Henry, you are able to successfully leave the bedroom before the game is able to kick in and start a cutscene, the game is softlocked, instantly. You can achieve this within the first, 30 seconds of starting. And what's more, the effect of this softlock is so powerful that if you quit to the main menu and start a new game, you are still softlocked. You are still not able to move. You actually have to entirely quit the software in order to undo the damage. Suits me perfectly fine, I didn't want to play this game anyway. So, alright, never mind that, let's move on to Silent Hill Origins. Now, I'm playing this on the Japanese version via a PSTV, not because, as you might suspect, it is faster for speedruns, just because it's the only version they sell. Konami, in fact, will not sell you the English version of this game on the PSN. I mean, I guess soon they won't sell anyone any version on PSN, but I digress. I'm mentioning this because my hardware and version combo might be pertinent to this, but as someone who has speedran Origins for many years, this version of the game is quite unstable. A habit I picked up when I was grinding out world record in this game is that between every completed attempt you need to close the game and reopen it, and the reason for this is that the game gets more unstable the longer it's left open. If you attempt to do multiple complete runs in one sitting, the game is very likely to crash at some point, and I've never gotten it to survive 3 runs in a row. So that was my plan for Origins. I'm aware it's not a very good one, but that was my plan. I was just gonna impromptu execute 3 Origins speedruns off the cuff, and it would probably crash at some point during the 3rd. So that's what I did. I cleared the first loop in about 34 minutes, not bad, and then cleared my second loop in 29 minutes. But as I start my 3rd loop, which is pretty likely to crash the game, a chatter comes in clutch saying they unearthed a video from 14 years ago with 16 views, and they say that if you change costume while firing the Tesla rifle, it will crash the game, so I give it a try. Well, that was a lot simpler than I thought. Didn't need to spend 2 hours on this. Yep, that's definitely a crash. So I spent 2 hours playing a game that I could have been done within 2 minutes instead. Oops. I live broadcast these kinds of weird challenges over on my Twitch, and they have a way of turning into these sorts of collaborative exercises. Full series challenges like this, it's a lot of ground to cover. Someone's bound to know something that I don't. On that note, here's a game where some of you probably do know something I don't. Silent Hill Shattered Memories. Once again, I'm playing this on the Japanese version on the PlayStation 2, this time because it is fastest for speedruns. Now, I had a specific plan in mind for this game. It requires me to play about the first 15 minutes of the game, where eventually Harry gets into a car ride with Sybil. Sybil exits the car, and after a certain amount of time passes, Harry says a voice line wondering where she went. If you attempt to open the car door at the exact same time Harry tries to say this voice line, the game will crash. The problem I ran into is that this might be frame perfect. I tried it quite a few times and I was really struggling to get it. After like a dozen attempts and getting annoyed because unfortunately the checkpoint for retrying this is really bad. You're forced to recomplete the entire chase segment and watch 3 cutscenes before you get another go at it. It's about 5 minutes between each single attempt. and that shit gets old fast. So to prove my concept, I swap over to emulator and make a save state so I can retry it faster. And I can't get it to happen there either. For all I know, this might be because I used the American version when emulating, the crash might be exclusive to the Japanese version, it may just be that emulator doesn't accurately replicate the crashing behavior, that's quite likely, PS2 emulation isn't actually that accurate. But either way, that was also a bust. So that was a bummer, but I had a backup plan. Kind of. It's not a very good one. See, in my experience doing many Shattered Memories speedruns, Shattered Memories suffers from the exact same issue that Origins does. The game gets gradually more unstable the longer you do subsequent attempts. Cutscenes will start to play at the wrong speed, characters will animate way too quickly, and eventually the game will very likely just hang on a loading screen. So in the event that I couldn't get this crash to function, I had the out of just play the game for a couple hours until it eventually dies on its own. So that's what I did. And it didn't work. Despite the fact that this game is so unstable that I've once again adopted the habit of restarting the entire system between complete run attempts, I could not get it to crash when I actually sat down to do recording for this. I ended up playing 4 hours of Shattered Memories in a row, and it did nothing interesting the entire time. I was pissed. Usually I don't have to try very hard to get it to do stupid things. I also read about a bug that happens if you fill up your gallery with photos and then start deleting them. Apparently this can corrupt the save file and make the game lock you in the phone. But I couldn't get this to work either, and nobody seems to have exact steps for reproduction. So after spending 4 hours fruitlessly looping through Shattered Memories runs, I completed like 3 goes of this entire game in this time frame. I just gave up. In lieu of this, here's some clips of the stupid things that Shattered Memories can do in as little as like an hour of being left on.
Hang on, Kaufman cha-cha real smooth! Holy shit, look at him go!
Shattered Memories, folks.
There we go! What is fucking happening, dude? Mason approaches! Virtual insanity! Oh, there we go, it's fixed.
Oh, I hail home, gog and loot from watching movies on the turn. Die. Didn't daddy. Guy who 7 was actually what's their year-old anyway knows who the
like a shit post.
and so says obsesses bad obsessed over this or make fantasy deaths cropping up or scrabbly with happy raps ever raps of a scrap life that father was exists of a waiter who never existed. God.
I can't fucking breathe.
Usually this kind of thing is shortly followed by the game crashing on a loading screen. No idea why I couldn't get this to happen today, but that's the nature of it, I guess. That's the nature of it when your strategy is just play the game and hope for a crash at some point. Oh well. Congratulations to Shattered Memories for being the most stable and also the most boring game in this video. Boo! So how about that Homecoming? Now, Homecoming is a game with many options for how to softlock or crash it. It's another one of those games that if you play it for long enough, it'll probably just crash on its own, being an extremely buggy and notoriously unstable game. But of course, I had a plan. Very early on in the game, during the initial nightmare segment, there is a moment where your character reaches their arm into a hole in order to pull out a doll. This doll is necessary for progress. The item pops up on screen, and then it's in your inventory. However, if you repeatedly mash the B button shortly after completing this QuickTime event, the pop-up that shows that you got the item is delayed until the roll completes, and if you mash fast enough, you can chain multiple of them. There's another item in this room, the child's drawing. If you are able to successfully delay the doll pickup and roll all the way over to this thing and pick it up before the doll pickup occurs, it doesn't occur. It took me a few tries to get the hang of this, but eventually I was able to pull it off, and sure enough, the doll never appears in your inventory. The game is softlocked. Without the doll, you can't progress the game, you are forced to quit and reload a save. If this didn't end up panning out, it is basically trivial in Homecoming to get yourself stuck in a wall, so I was not worried about this one taking a long time, and it didn't. It took about 15 minutes, and most of that was cutscene.
You know what takes several hours and is also mostly cutscene? Downpour.
Now, I was actually doing this one on something like hard mode, because Downpour, if you play it on a stock PS3 or 360, is notoriously unstable and prone to crashing at various points throughout the game. But I was playing it on my Series X, which makes the game far more stable than it ever was when it came out. Nevertheless, I had a very precise, repeatable plan. Unfortunately, getting there entails beating 3/4 of Downpour. And for those of you who don't know, Downpour is not a game that lets you skip cutscenes. The cutscene to gameplay ratio in this is honestly like 2-to-1 or something. It's quite grim. Not that the game is terrible or anything, but you do spend an awful amount of time not actually playing it. I think I spent most of this run on social media. I amuse myself by listening to Murphy's dumb little screams. I don't know, I just think they're funny. Within about an hour, I've cleared roughly a third of the game and arrived at the end of Devil's Pit. The run continues to go pretty smoothly, considering I haven't actually ran this game in a while, and roughly another 90 minutes down the line, I've arrived at the docks. This is the point of no return before Downpour's final segment. You're supposed to get on a boat, but I'm far more interested in the docks themselves. I bumble around a bit trying to find the exact spot, but eventually I find this stack of crates where, with some careful finagling, you can get on top of them and drop yourself out of bounds. Wonderful. Now, I think the game is softlocked the instant you do this, but there are more fun things you can do while you're down here. For starters, you can fall completely into the void and start displaying junk data. Very pretty. But astonishingly, if you fall through the void for long enough, you end up back at the end of the Devil's Pit, over half the game ago. I did it. I played 2.5 hours of Downpour to teleport back to the first hour of Downpour. What was I doing again? Oh right, once you're down here, the game is softlocked for good. You can't interact with the button to leave the space, and there's nothing else you can do, so the game is softlocked. Hooray! I'm honestly impressed the game managed to not crash after that, but softlocked all the same. Wonderful. Moving on to the short message. I bet you forgot this game existed. This is a short, atmospheric, first-person, almost adventure game, really. There's not really so much to talk about with this one, but the critical point comes roughly 20 minutes into the game. You unlock a locker, and there is a letter inside it. This letter, for reasons unknown to me, plays an unskippable, several-minute-long yapping sequence at you, but if you are able to successfully open your phone menu while picking up the letter, this has interesting side effects. In a speedrun context, this can actually be used to skip the letter, but if you do it wrong, the game will just hang on this screen forever and you can't escape it. Unfortunately, it seems to be roughly frame perfect and requires you to repeatedly mash the button to bring up the mobile, which is touchpad, which is not a convenient button to mash. Mostly because a touchpad isn't a convenient thing to have on a controller. Why do these controllers have touchpads? What for? Anyway, point being, this is difficult to execute, and it's also the closest thing the short message speedrun has to tech. And unfortunately, if you fail it, you have to quit the software, reopen the game, and repeat an entire segment of game going through about 2 cutscenes, one of which is unskippable. Because this game has a very shattered memories style problem with the checkpoints. And I, unfortunately, was struggling with this. I spent about an hour attempting this, and kind of amusingly, I actually managed to get the skip version of it once, like I did it correctly. Or incorrectly, as the case may be.
Remember when I said,
Fuck, I actually got the skip!
Cherry Blossom? She was asking.
Wrong kind of thing to happen! But after genuinely reattempting this for about an hour, I gave up. I was getting fucking bored. In theory, you can softlock short message in about 20 minutes if you can get this trick in a reasonable number of tries. Whatever, I didn't feel like subjecting myself to more of it. I could have left short message out of this video, and I don't think anyone would even have noticed. So instead, let's move on to Silent Hill 2 Remake. Yep, I've included both the original and its remake in this video, because I'm just that comprehensive. Unfortunately, my footage for Silent Hill 2 Remake looks like this, because this is the sort of thing you have to do to get this game to run at a stable frame rate on PC. Silent Hill 2 Remake is one of the worst optimized games to come out in recent memory, and they have not bothered patching it at basically any point, which is actually good for my purposes because it means they never fixed this fundamental glitch. This is known as breakout tech. James has a variety of animations that, when he's in the middle of, if you quick turn and then interact with something like a windowsill or a gap you can squeeze through, you gain control while he's doing these things. This enables you to repeatedly dodge through walls, and there's a whole bunch of crazy skips that this enables. The speedrun for this is only about an hour long these days. Now, there's a lot of animations that you can cancel to acquire this effect, like reloading a gun, but the one that we're using for our purposes is the healing animation, so the only thing you need is a syringe. Start trying to heal yourself, quick turn, interact with a gap in the wall, and presto, I have dodged my way out of bounds. But we're not truly soft-locked yet. From out of bounds, it's possible to worm your way back into bounds at certain points, and I need to get myself truly stuck. So I'm having a good time exploring the out-of-bounds environment, because this is all new and exciting to me. And eventually, after exploring my way around, this happens. Hurrah, we've done it. We've sealed James Sunderland in a box where he shall remain for eternity. In the end, this softlock only took about 10 minutes, and that was with very thoroughly verifying that I was actually stuck and couldn't deload the walls. This breakout glitch still works on current versions of the game, and I think it even works on consoles too. Give it a try, it's fun to play around with. Here's hoping Bloober Team actually optimizes Silent Hill 1 Remake correctly so all of my footage for that game doesn't end up looking like shit as well. And I don't want to hear nothing about Unreal Engine 5. You know what also runs on Unreal Engine 5 and doesn't look like shit? Silent Hill F, the final game for today's endeavor. Now for this one, I have to admit, I didn't actually test my solution before I went live and started doing this run. I just sort of trusted that the research would be correct. Regardless, in order to start trying to softlock the game, I needed to play through the opening segments and reach the first Dark World area, which takes about 10 minutes. From here, my plan was to get out of bounds by wedging myself into geometry in a weird way, but I was starting to get worried that it had been patched out because I wasn't having any success with the areas that I'd seen. Fortunately, it just turned out that I was standing in slightly the wrong spot, and if you dodge into a wall like this and then perform a heavy attack, you get launched very far upwards. And then if you keep repeatedly dodging, you can get over the invisible walls that normally prevent you from going out of bounds, and you're softlocked, because you can't get back in bounds. Hinako is doomed to spend eternity wandering around in shallow ankle-height water. Silent Hill F is notoriously also quite fussy about this sort of out-of-bounds tech. Even if you did manage to land back in bounds, if you trigger any event out of its intended order, the game will softlock entirely. There's quite a few of these out-of-bounds launches that are known, but none of them are useful in a speedrun context because all of them just break the game. Foxmass doesn't even react to his future wife having fallen off the bridge right next to him. What an asshole. And there we have it, a softlock in around 15 minutes, and overall managing to crash or softlock every Silent Hill game in roughly 10 hours. Now, in theory, this time could be a lot shorter if you could figure out consistent methods for a couple of the games and also don't waste 2 hours on Origins by accident. I can see an optimal time for this category being more in the ballpark of like 4-ish hours or something, but this isn't a real speedrun, there's no leaderboard for this. At least there isn't yet. And that'll be it from me. Thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed this display of how to break a bunch of games. If you did, consider subscribing to the channel for more stupid challenge runs, or following on my Twitch where I typically broadcast these before they get turned into videos. And consider also supporting on the Patreon, so you can have your name with these fine people in the credits and also support the creation of more stuff like this. Alright, thanks for watching. Ta-ta for now.